Alright, all you music makers, video game players, entertainers, streetlight crusaders, listeners of the madness, and I guess a couple of you riders outside who currently are trying to get as much out of Kawasaki season as you can before it's over. Welcome to yet another random edition of A Work in Progress. I am your host from the East Coast, as always, DJ Smokey. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, to kick off this show, the title is not deceiving your eyes. We are officially back once again on YouTube. And the reason why we weren't on YouTube for this entirety of the summer is because, well, my computer kept overheating every single time we tried to upload all the episodes, and in risk of not having a Music Village or Under the Radar or any of the other shows that we did, we had to wait until the summer was over, the heat calmed down, and then we could finally upload all these episodes to YouTube. Now, granted, it's going to take us a while with this computer the way it is, but we are going to upload every single episode of A Work in Progress that we haven't uploaded as of late up to YouTube, which, according to the maestro, we have about a good 5 to 6 episodes to upload for you fans out there within the next couple of days. Now, are we going to be able to do it? Maybe. I'm going to put a maybe on it. I'm not going to say definitely, but I will say maybe for the episodes to be uploaded to YouTube. And man, oh man, the reason why we decided to do this is because several people started to look on our YouTube page saying, that's very interesting, but I heard your episodes on Soundcloud, but where did they go on YouTube? So there's your answer. An entire summer of heat has stopped A Work in Progress from taking place on YouTube. So yeah, it'll return as of this upcoming Saturday. So don't worry about it, folks. And as a little bit of a miniature thank you to those on Reverbnation, which we've been meaning to do for the longest amount of time, but each week we keep forgetting, we would like to personally say thank you to the following artists of Randy Moore, Within Gothic Towers, which reminds me a little bit of Jefferson Starship, Jefferson Airplane, with a hint of David Bowie in there, which is pretty awesome, and Tracy Morris, I don't know why we got the Morgus from, but Tracy Morris, The Sickos, Johanna Music, James L. Davis, and I think Johanna Music again. Thank each and every last one of you for giving us some kind messages and some cool music to listen into on the nights in between us trying to plan for Music Village, Under the Radar, and any other show that we do on a daily/nightly basis. Or morning basis if you count the Tuesday night special. Because a lot of people say, oh, the Tuesday night special is on a Wednesday morning. We beat it via a technicality because we go by Los Angeles time when we upload the Tuesday night special. So, yeah, we're able to cut through the red tape of it being the Wednesday night special. So, no. Yeah, still the Tuesday night special, folks. And aside from all of that YouTube news, folks, we now go into, once again, our Phantasy Star Online Blue Burst news. And I wish I had the news music from Doug, you know, the one with the I wish I had that. Really did, because that would be cool to segue with, but we don't have it. So, nevertheless, folks, next week for you fans of Phantasy Star Online Blue Burst for the Ultima servers, I have some good news for you. It's been announced that the Triforce event will be beginning as of next week. And I, for one, who missed out on this event by 4 days due to the fact of me joining just around the end of the month before the Halloween, yeah, I'm gonna really look forward to trying to get a couple of the weapons from the Triforce event, including a couple of new weapons that are currently under wraps. that I'm not gonna say until they're officially confirmed. So when they're confirmed, you'll most likely hear about it for the Tuesday night special that following week. Which, by the way, next week, folks, last full week of summer. Well, technically, this week is the last full week of summer because the 22nd and the 21st is fall. Even though my mom says that her birthday is on fall, even though it's the 23rd, but the fall solstice, or autumn for those who call it that, begins on the 21st. But I'm not going to tell her that. I'm not going to argue with my mom on that. I wouldn't dare do such a thing. And speaking of fall, one thing that we're still trying to figure out, if it's neither this weekend or the next following weekend, an annual event that we go to every single year where we started our broadcasting career and everything else that was absolutely magical, including Carmageddon, which was a whole litany list line of cars outside, known as the Fall Festival on the Green. We're still trying to figure out the date for that. Maestro's currently looking into it, and I'm gonna probably be there in some form of capacity, and I still gotta find that Bob Barker, Bill Butel microphone to do a little couple of interviews with a couple of you fans out there and just random people on the street. And hopefully this year I can run into the mayor of this very town and ask him to be a part of Music Village episode 290. See, I would have said episode 300, but that's reserved for one man and one man only, Scott Clark from Eyewitness News. Which Maestro told me on one of the Instagram pages he saw that Scott Clark made a resurgence back in May for Eyewitness News for a Lifetime Achievement Award. Not bad. The man deserves it. And not to mention, most of the stuff he does is out of this world. No, Maestro, we're not going to do it like Scott Clark would because we're going to get in trouble for that. So, no. You know what? Screw it. Why not? Because everything this man does is out of this world. Ah, man. Like I said, Scott Clark, once we hit 300 episodes, we're going to give you a call to be a part of the show personally. Because we were big fans of Scott Clark since we used to watch that segment that he used to do every day after school for Music Village. But we'll go more into that, folks, for this Friday's edition of Music Village, where we talk to you guys at home for one final Dog Days of Summer story, where we talk about how we came to be for Music Village as a whole. How did the first episode of Music Village go down? You'll figure that out, or we'll tell you guys as of this upcoming Friday, which will mark our 15th anniversary of us being on an open microphone. Which I still can't believe that we've been on microphone for 15 years. I mean, granted, we've also been in broadcasting for that long, but we've done more radio work than video work in our time. Which my uncle still is confused about because he said maybe I should have dwelled a little bit more in broadcasting and do that. But to do that, folks, and I said this on many different occasions, I would have to get one of them fancy looking suits, probably along the lines of Harvey Dent, and go ahead and do it that way. But until I can find one of those Harvey Dent two-face suits that's two-toned that I can wear on the air to actually broadcast for you fans, not too entirely sure I'll be doing that just yet. But it's a thought for me to have in the future. Don't think I haven't thought about it. But besides all of that, folks, I think it's time for us to go into some news. And the one news story that we found for this week that I got a feeling I was going to go on a rant for because it's... I can't believe it. I can't believe it. The movie Face Off. There has been rumors going around that the host of the said movie that is coming up that are I'm so tongue-tied about all this, folks. It's ridiculous. The movie that was known as Face Off is going to be remade next. And it's going to be from the same people who are going to work on the film of Sonic the Hedgehog and was a part of the Cloverfield Paradox, which I haven't gotten a chance to see, but I did see 10 Cloverfield Lane with Fred Flintstone in it, and it was a pretty good film. But do I trust this guy to be a part of one of my most favorite movies of all time that John Travolta and Nicolas Cage was in? No. Because, yeah, it's a cult classic to me. Not even a cult classic. It's probably one of my top 5 most favorite films of all time, next to the movie that he was in, known as The Rock. I do believe Con Air, Speed, Pulp Fiction, and I'm still trying to figure out what number 5 was. It's a tie between a whole bunch of different scary movies, but if I had to pick one right off the top of my head of an all-time favorite scary movie that I'll watch no matter what Halloween or horror movie that would go down for it, I would have to say Nightmare on Elm Street. My friend Jay Meeks would kill me for saying that because he was a big fan of the Friday the 13th series, which, by the way, this upcoming Friday is Friday the 13th, and it's freaking me out to all ends. But yeah, big fan of Friday the 13th he is, but I'm a fan of Nightmare on Elm Street mostly because, well, my mom, when I was growing up as a kid, had the Freddy Krueger claw and would use to stroke it along the side of our faces and say, "Good night," before we go to sleep. And that was at age 5. How was your childhood? And speaking of childhoods and stuff, and to round everything back to this week's episode of Music Village, it's gonna be a big episode, folks, and it's not gonna be on purpose because we wanted to include the games for you independent gamers out there for a part of a show, or the part of the show we like to call the Friday Night Greenlight, which we will include along with the match card prediction for Night of Champions or Clash of Champions, or the pay-per-view that I wish they would call War of the Champions, because it's not a clash. Most of these matches are going to be a war. So I would think it would be a lot better if they called it War of the Champions, but if they didn't let the Viking Raiders or the War Raiders call themselves War Raiders when it came to the main roster, yeah, a pay-per-view with the word war in it is not gonna happen anytime soon. Really wish they would have, but no, not gonna happen. And like I said before, this week's episode of Music Village, larger than life, but not on purpose, will feature the results from Night of Champions, or the match card, the Friday Night Greenlight, and a very special, probably final edition of the DJ Smokey's Dog Days of Summer of How We Became to Be on the microphone. And according to the maestro, we explained all of this earlier, but just in case people weren't paying attention, there you go. And while we're still trying to get back on track, while Maestro holds up a flashcard saying face off, there hasn't been any news of when this film will start production, but yeah, with the film being well over 22 years old, I think they should leave the classics alone. And my God, the fact that this movie is 22 years old, we have to honor it in some way, shape, or form. And I got a feeling by the time the Indie Radio Arcade hits 4 years old in January, this will be the movie we will review. Because it's still up on the board next to the calendar we have of iconic movies that we review for milestones. And I'm not kidding, folks. That's what it says on the board right now. And we still have several movies on that list, including Life, Under Siege 2 Dark Territory, and yes, it is a Steven Seagal movie, so I know my sister's not gonna listen in, because she's not a big fan of Steven Seagal. Why? I don't know. And you also have Con Air along with Face Off. So one of those 4 movies will be reviewed upon within the next big milestone that I got a feeling will take place just before Halloween. I wonder how that episode's gonna go with Maestro looking real skittish right now, pointing to the book of the Disc Keeper, which I told him to keep in the safe so nobody could take it. Put that back in the safe. But before we drop everything with the movie Face Off being rebooted, one question I want to know before we move on is who they're going to get to play Sean Archer and Castor Troy in this film. I mean, if they can get John Travolta and Nicolas Cage to be in the movie again, that'd be great. But if they can't get them, who's going to be those 2 guys? I don't see anybody else playing them of modern action movie role star guys, except for the guy who was in the movie London Has Fallen, and I guess Jason Statham, who would play Castor Troy. Those are the only people I could see being in that movie. There's other actors I could think of off the top of my head, but not many action movie stars to be involved in that film. They might be able to find somebody, but just in case, I recommend they keep the number of John Travolta and Nicolas Cage on speed dial just in case. And if you guys want to check out any further details of this movie when it comes out, you can head on over to the website only known as io9.gizmodo.com to check it out for yourselves. And a lot of people are wondering at home why in the world I'm going all over the place right now. Like I said, this show's a work in progress. Things happen randomly and thoughts just cross my head at a moment's notice. So it makes for a very confusing show. And to continue with that confusion, folks, one thing we thought about before we got onto this show, besides a litany list of cool music that we were able to listen to from the soundtrack of Backyard Wrestling Don't Try This at Home, and a couple of old school commercials that we were watching, which was one of the commercials was that Odd Job commercial or the Odd Couple commercial that we were talking about a couple of months ago or a couple of weeks ago from the Tuesday night special where we talked about it. We were able to find it, but the artists who did the music for it, they don't have it listed. Usually they have the music listed underneath for the commercial song, but they don't have it. But I think if you go to Honda or Toyota, one of those 2 people online for commercials, you'll be able to find it, and trust me, it's an interesting commercial. And aside from that, folks, another thing we would like to talk about on this said show, seeing the fact that a lot of people are wondering, will the high score of one man known as the Awesome Ogre will be beaten? We'll find that out right about nowish. Because now Maestro was able to pull up the high scores and not pull up what I told him to pull up before. So we're now going to mention a couple of the high scores from this past week to see who's going to be able to beat this $21 million high score for another impromptu edition of the, man, I don't even think we have a name of that segment for this part of the show yet, do we? No. Okay, we'll just call it the random high score segment. And the first high score we have up comes from none other than Tim Landis USA with his high score of 48,525, a part of the Atari 2600 game of Infiltrate. Not bad. Next high score we have up comes from none other than Ed1475 with his high score of 560, a part of the ColecoVision game of Alphabet Zoo Level 6 Game 2 Lowercase. I didn't know if uppercase and lowercase ever mattered in high score, but it does here. Nice. Then Ed 1475 is added again with another high score of 15,278, a part of the ColecoVision game of War Room Skill 9. And I got a feeling that's based on that video game movie that I can't remember the name of right now, and it's gonna bug the crap out of me. I think it was called War Games? I could be wrong. But besides that movie from the 80s or 90s, the next high score we have up once again comes from Ed1475 with his high score of 1,570, a part of the ColecoVision game of Space Invasion, Normal Invasion. So what is this, a spin-off of Space Invaders? From the sounds of it, I got a feeling it is. Next high score we have up now comes from G. Tibble with his high score of 106,030, a part of the SNES game of On Zool, which for some strange reason reminds me of that What a Cartoon of Zoonatics, which I'm surprised it never became a real cartoon, but it deserved it. Along with the show known as Bag Boy. Really wish it did. That would have been a cool superhero show for a Saturday morning cartoon. But I think that year, The Adventures of Grim and Evil won that one. Yeah. But before I go any further down Cartoon Lane, folks, the next game or high score we have up comes from G. Tibble with his high score of 13,400, a part of the SNES game of Congo's Caper. Not bad. And the last but not least high score that we have up comes from, once again, G. Tibble with his high score of 3,400, a part of the Super Star Wars game of Super Star Wars Return of the Jedi, a part of the SNES. And if you guys want to check out any of these other cool high scores that are currently coming through the Twitter pages as we speak, you can head on over to the high scoring Twitter page of one man only known as @HighScore, or head on over to their website known as highscore.com to win cool prizes for your high scores. And like we say during every single one of the segments that we would have or could have during these shows, is a fair trade. And the high score of one man known as Awesome Ogre still stands with his high score of well over 21,045,300, a part of the Genesis Mega Drive game of Devil's Crush. And as a matter of fact, folks, with the name of that game, we got so inspired by it, I think we created a miniature BMX park in the game known as Dave Mirra 2. And yeah, tried to skate in it. Wasn't a good idea at all. We tried to do one of those classic backflip, tail whip things, and it didn't end well. Actually, I think it was a backflip, tail whip flare. A flare whip? I think that's what they should have called it, but the name of it was way too long, and it was way too difficult for us to do after picking up the game in well over a decade, and we fell and broke that guy's neck. And I think it was Dave Mirra himself. Yikes. Not good. Not good at all. And besides all of that, folks, another thing that we really wanted to talk to you guys about for a work in progress before we head on out of here is apparently Maestro, who found the date for the Fall Festival on the Green for this year for New Jersey, and it's none other than next weekend. Not this weekend coming up, folks. The weekend before this month ends, we will be able to go down to the Fall Festival on the Green from noon all the way until 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you happen to see a silly chap with no hair on his head, big long beard, and a funny looking bow tie on, that is us. Yes, we're going to be wearing a bow tie to this event if we want to get the whole Bill Butel experience over with. And with that said, folks, we now head into another classic home edition. And oh, Maestro told me to make sure to tell the date out loud, and it's September 29th from noon till 5 all over the green that will close roads on that day. And not to mention, as a little bit of a heads up, they're finally going to turn on the traffic light right up the street here on Speedwell Avenue that they've been lingering around for about a good 6 months. So any of you out there who are used to speeding past that street near Martin Luther King and Speedwell Avenue, yeah, that's gonna come to a screeching halt within the next couple of days. So be careful and drive safe. And now, with that said, folks, we now go into a lavish home edition of the lifestyles of the digitally rich and famous. And the first house that we have up comes from the creator, Brit2395. Nice name, by the way, with her house, House to the Future. And this house, besides it reminding me of that classic home from those Tex Avery / Chuck Jones cartoons that I used to watch as a kid, comes with 3 bedrooms and 3.5 bathrooms along with it, making this probably one of the first houses that has equal bathrooms as well as bedrooms, making it the perfect house for you to live in, for you not to fight over bathrooms on a daily basis. And in addition to all that, folks, this house comes with a pool and even a jacuzzi in the back of the house, along with a 2-car garage. And a garage, and the other one, should I say, the driveway that they have beside the garage, big enough for you to do the ambition pack and add a fire truck or some form of emergency vehicle to the back lot of your house for easy access to get in and out of the house and rescue lives in your everyday life. And a little bit of a tip for anybody who decides to live in this said house, as a little bit of a warning, some of the items are a part of the exchange that you may have to get from the exchange itself. Just a heads up. And the next house that we have up, or should I say mansion, which is pretty cool, comes from the creator KCJK with his house, Impeccable Manor, 4 bedrooms, 6 baths. And the reason why I said this house was impressive, besides having a little play area for kids in the back, but they also was able to turn the garage or makeshift driveway of this said house into a miniature apartment itself. That's how big this mansion is, folks. And it also comes with 4 bedrooms and 6 bathrooms. My God, the houses this week for the lifestyles of the digitally rich and famous, the bathroom-bedroom ratio is really good. I think people are starting to learn that things get hectic in the morning and you need bathrooms to actually fix it. And this house can be built upon, folks, and it does come with a play set in the back for kids, like we said before, but it also is a 3-story house, and not to mention the fact that you can actually have your in-laws live in the garage next to the house. Which is always a fun thing if you're not a fan of in-laws in this game. Which, from what I remembered, most of the in-laws I had in The Sims, not that bad. All of them very nice. Except for the Bella family. I don't know why. Anyway, besides that creepy Sims version of the Addams Family, the next house we have up, a part of the KCJK Home Touring Classics, comes from him with his house, Ye Old Tudor. Ye Old Tudor? That's it? I thought the title was longer than that, but it's Ye Old Tudor with the house that looks absolutely incredible. That is a brown house with 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, and a heavily wooded area that once again has an area for kids to play in. Not bad. And the most impressive thing about this said house, besides its heavily wooded areas, folks, is the fact that this house looks, strangely enough, like an apartment house. Not bad. So that means for those who have neighbors or friends that you don't like to live with in the same house but still has to pay a little bit of the bill for you guys to actually live together in harmony, you can actually separate this house into 2 parts as a makeshift apartment and add a kitchen upstairs to avoid all confrontation with them altogether. Which, like we said again, is not bad. And only problem we have with it is that it does not have a driveway for this said house, but you can add one at a little cost of getting rid of a little bit of the trees around this said house. So if you're willing to part with a couple of trees for this environmentally safe-like house, then go for it. And the next house that we have up comes from the creator KCJK, which I do believe supplied just about a good 3 out of 5 houses for this week with his said house, Place Royale. Man, I love the name of this house. And this said house, which looks like a makeshift church, has 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, and it's in yet another heavily wooded area with a child swing set in the background and a whole bunch of very fancy fireplaces included in this said home. And I, for one, even though the bathroom ratio is a little bit off for this said house, and the fact that it's in, I guess, the woods, if you consider it, it's a pretty roomy house. And the fact that this house is built upon a 40 by 40 lot, like the other houses that we mentioned for this week, always gives you room to improve upon this said home. So if you want to add a swimming pool or more things to this said house, or even a stable for your horses, if you do have that said pack for the seasons to add horses to it, you can. And according to what the maestro told me, this said lot is big enough, if you get rid of the swing sets in the back, to turn this into a makeshift place where you can train your horses, with a giant oversized steeplechase in the backyard. Not bad. Not bad. And the last but not least house that we have up comes from the creator, Fancy Shoes? No, it really does say Fancy Shoes. Nice name, by the way, with their said house, Wolf and Landgrab. And I got a feeling this house was designed by lawyers, because this said 4-bedroom, 3-bathroom house, which comes complete with family that would move in with this said home, is a very plain looking house, but at the same time on a 40 by 30 lot with a custom jacuzzi in the house, along with its own mini bar and separate rooms included for this said home. And a child's room as well, so you don't have to fight over who's gonna sleep in what room when the kids gets older. And one thing that I really loved about this house, folks, besides the fact that you can build upon it, but also the fact that this guy who created this house was so protective, he made a very thin-like fence in the backyard for the backyard with enough space behind it to build whatever you want around it. So it can be improved and built upon. And to make it even better, if you have an ambitions pack and want to add a firehouse to this said lot, you have plenty of room to do so. And also enough room to turn it into a place where your band could practice. Most likely in a garage. Yeah, garage band practice. Sounds like a good thing. And if you guys want to check out any other cool and crazy houses that are coming from the exchange on a weekly, daily, or even monthly or yearly basis, you can head on over to the Sim 3 exchange page, only known as thesims3.com, and just click ever so lightly on that exchange page to check out which sort of cool and lavish houses that'll make you have 8-bit caviar wishes and 8-bit champagne dreams. And apparently Maestro has never heard of caviar, which is a mixed version of... You know what? I'm not even going to play it off. I don't know what it is either. So, caviar wishes and champagne dreams to all of those who decide to live in these lavish, beautiful houses created by you independent gamers out there. Yeah, best way to end it. Well, speaking of endings, folks, Maestro just ring the bell, which means it's just about that time for us to hit the old dusty trail and bring this show to an emphatic close. And if you missed anything for this live edition of the show that went off the rails more often than less, you can check it out on our Soundcloud, Facebook, and even Tumblr pages, all named the same, only known as Music Village Radio, under the hashtag A Work in Progress 18, which I do believe in golf terms is the same amount of rounds you would have to do in a complete course of golf. Yeah, the only sports-related joke with the number 18 we could find. And if you guys want to figure out what other crazy and zany things that we still got prepared for this sports month, like amount of holes you'll have to go through for a golf game or for this show as well, you can go ahead and check it out on our Twitter and our YouTube page, both named the same, only known as the Double O Agent 0012. Which, as a special treat for you YouTube fans out there, we're uploading this show over to YouTube first, prior to us doing it on SoundCloud like we used to do. And before we head out for the night, we would like to thank, as always, you the fans out there, for listening in to this specially random edition of A Work in Progress. And as always, guys, thank you for listening in. And for you YouTubers out there, yep, same thing. Thank you for listening in. And there's more where this comes from with all the silly episodes that we were able to pull together at the last minute. And we would also like to thank you, the independent artists out there, for delivering that musical goodness like you always do. And keep up the great work, guys. And here's hoping to all the artists we mentioned earlier, plus others along with them, that we can actually bring your music on for one episode of A Work in Progress in the near future. You know, fingers crossed if we're able to get in contact with you guys again. And girls. And speaking of people we were able to get in contact with, we would like to thank our musical guest for the night, none other than Tekno AXE, with his song, Walk Manifesto, that was featured during the intro and will be featured once again during the outro for this week's edition of A Work in Progress. Which, as the same thing with Under the Radar, is slowly but surely starting to become a permanent theme, a part of the show. Not to mention, it's something you can really tap your toes to. And finally, last but not least, we would like to thank you, the independent gamers out there, for coming out with all those sweet, sweet games and high scores that we had a chance to mention during this week's show. And I got a feeling within the next 2 weeks, when we're back on the air again, folks, we will have a couple of your games to mention on this very show to bring out the summer, or more or less to bring in the fall solstice, since Maestro's playing at the calendar with the next time we're on the air in 2 weeks, which is during the fall solstice. We can bring it in on a high note. Yeah, hopefully we can. And I guess with that said, folks, and with Maestro currently staring at his watch like we have somewhere to be, oh, yeah, as a matter of fact, we do, with the battery about to run out on this computer, I'm DJ Smokey on behalf of the Maestro with the battery in hand just in case this goes off, saying, when there's smoke, there's fire, and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks for the fall solstice crazy lineup edition of a work in progress. But until then, folks, have a great night, a happy summer, and always enjoy the night, I guess. You know, we need to come up with a better catchphrase to end off this show than that, but besides that, good night, everybody.
Walk down the street, saying hello to the people I meet, and I'm killing my love underneath the sun, triggering down like the smoking gun. Yeah, I ain't got no plans, just a rusty voice and an empty gas can. My car's broken down a mile behind, and I've got my life set on rewind, baby. I ain't got no plans, just a rusty voice and an empty gas can. My car's broken down a mile behind, and I've got my life set on rewind, baby. Walk down the street, saying hello to the people I meet, and I'm killing my love underneath the sun, triggering down like the smoking gun. Yeah, I ain't got no plans, just a rusty voice and an empty gas can. My car's broken down a mile behind, and I've got my life set on rewind, baby. I ain't got no plans, just a rusty voice and an empty gas can. My car's broken down a mile behind, and I've got my life set on rewind, baby. Da